Hey, everybody. My name's Jay,
Hey everyone, I am Saji here.
and welcome to our beginning of our new series that we're going to be doing. It is Modern AI Apps with Azure Cosmos DB, and this is our first episode. It's called Agentic Coding with Azure Cosmos DB, from idea to working app. And you know what, Saji? We could just do quick intros. So tell everybody your name and what you do.
Yeah, I am Saji working on the Azure Cosmos DB product team, mainly focusing on the developer experience and also AI integrations. Yeah, if you have any feedback around Azure developer experience on Cosmos DB, feel free to reach out to me. And also, yeah, through our open source repos, you can give feedbacks and so on. Yeah, excited to start this series with Jay and looking forward to sharing the learnings that we had with Cosmos DB.
It should be fun. Hey, I'm Jay Gordon. I am a senior program manager, and I'm really here to help with community, help get your feedback, help connect you with Azure Cosmos DB, and do things like this series. So, Saji, I think we should just get right into it. One of the things that we're here to talk about throughout this series is building better applications through tooling and context. And you've got a couple of things about that. Let's take a look, okay?
Sure. Yeah, just to set the stage, agentic coding have been evolving in the last few months. And especially if you're working on cloud products, I think this is one of the essential thing that you need to keep up to date. So today we will be starting the first episode with how to get started with Cosmos DB, especially with the tooling or the tool chain that we provide on the Cosmos DB developer experience. So we will be using these tools across the series, starting with VS Code with GitHub Copilot, and then Azure Cosmos DB SDK, one of the key thing for interacting with Cosmos DB, and also the VS Code extension, especially if you're like working on the VS Code like all the time. This is one of the key tool to have. And also the Azure Cosmos DB Emulator. If you want to try the same experience locally, I would recommend to try the Azure Cosmos DB Emulator, which went GA, especially the Linux one at build. And finally, if you are new to Cosmos DB, and also if you are using Cosmos DB for a long time, and if you want to have some experts sitting next to you to guide on the Cosmos DB best practices, go ahead and install the Azure Cosmos DB Agent Kit, which we will be using in all the sessions that you're planning. And just to deep dive into Azure Cosmos DB Agent Kit, which is critical thing for Cosmos DB developers. So it's set of skills that we have used in the package so that you can install with one command, npx skills, Azure Cosmos DB Agent Kit, which comes with 180 plus rules across various categories so that you can get started with Cosmos DB from the first time itself. So it acts as a guidance for you to come up with data modeling, best practices, and in terms of SDKs and so on. So we will be diving in details throughout the session, but I just want to set the context so that you understand. It's set of reusable capabilities that you can use across your Cosmos DB development scenarios. Yeah, that's all, Jay.
Great. And so why don't we just kind of get into it?
Yep.
And so let's give you a few things that we're going to be working through today, just so you can have it. So this session is going to have code that you can use and you can follow along with. So if you'd like to, I've dropped in the chat a URL you can head to find out more. So go ahead and check out this URL and you can follow along with us. There's also some other things we want you to pay attention to. The Linux emulator. Matter of fact, we're going to use that in just a few minutes. And then as well, we're going to talk a little bit through the repo that actually the agent kit lives in. But let's talk about why the agent kit, and very simply stated. We are building applications through agenting processes. We're using agents to help us code, right, Saji? And one of the things that we need, I've found, most models don't write the right code when it comes to tools like Cosmos DB. Would you say that's kind of on, I don't know, kind of right?
Yeah, I think agents can write code better when you're providing with right instructions, and also that things that you're expecting from the agent to produce, right? So we need to be very specific on what is required and so on. That's where skill would help developers to produce the right code, especially with Cosmos DB being a very complex, product in terms of understanding. Their skills would make it better and easier to, understand Cosmos DB. So that's the right way to put it. Yeah.
And look at all these different skills that we can work through. So data modeling, partition key, query optimization, SD. And so we're going through these early parts because we want to set some context, like the Azure Kit, or excuse me, Agent Kit would do. It's creating context. It's giving a little bit more information about what Cosmos DB best practices should be put in place. So we're also going to be installing it. Let's make sure we have the latest version. The installation is really easy. You just can use it by adding a skill. So let's just make my terminal here in VS. I'm going to be doing everything in VS Code today. We're going to be working with Azure VS Code, GitHub Copilot chat to help us. We'll set up a little bit more of that in a minute. But let's actually get the Agent Kit installed. And so it's a one-liner. It's really easy. It goes through a couple of questions that you want to know. So first, it tells you where it is, and it asks you which skills. We want to install all of them. So let's just select all of them, because we want to make sure that we're able to work through all these different skills to help us today. Okay, so now we've done that, we can actually pick the additional agents that we want to install with. You can see there are a lot of different agents, and we'll be taking questions and answer and stuff like that as we go along. So please ask questions. Saji is going to be here. Why is that repo empty? Because we haven't created anything yet. We'll create some stuff. Don't worry. So let's finish doing the installation. So we can use
while you're doing installation, I want to highlight the skills work across any coding agents, so you don't have to worry about what coding agent you are using. So you can get started with this simple command, and also we have a distribution way with the APM so that you can use it across any coding agents. Just go through the repo instructions, so you will be able to get started. And I think Jay will be doing the same with VS Code.
Yeah. So Saji, I want to talk about this. This is something that's kind of newer in the Agent Kit. You tell me a little bit about like the security risk assessments that we see here.
This is from the audit. So whenever we release a package or the skills, there is audit that happens to make sure that it doesn't have any scripts that would harm. So you can see that being scanned. This is one of the recent things that we have added.
Sorry for the noise, everybody. It's still a little early here. I was going through my coffee. Anyhow, and if you're having coffee, it's early for you, or if it's late in the evening for you, say hi to us. Put some stuff in the chat. We want to hear from you. So we've gone through this. We've looked at what our security risk assessments are. We're going to hit enter, and it's going to start installing our skills. So it's going to put our skills I've selected to install it globally. So every single time I open up another session here. Now you can do this also with GitHub Copilot CLI, or it's the same kind of installation. You can use this across multiple agents, like we were talking about before. If you're a Claude person, you can use Claude, but we're going to use VS Code today. So we've got that started. Next thing I wanted to show is the actual. So let's just explain this directory for us a little bit, Saji.
Yeah. So when we started the Cosmos DB skills or the Agent Kit, we thought about the common problems that customers face, especially in terms of data modeling, partitioning. So we have categorized into critical, high, and then medium, and then low risk concepts. In terms of data modeling and partition key design, which is one of the important concepts when you're using a distributed database like Cosmos DB, which is critical, right? So when you choose the wrong partition key or when you do a wrong data modeling, you would pay the price like after a few months. And there are customers who have faced the same situation after certain amount of time, they come back to us and asking like, why did the RU hit this much? So that is one of the key things that we have added as critical skill, because data modeling and partition key design is a key concept for Cosmos DB. So you can see that that category is marked as critical, and then SDK best practices like design patterns comes as high, and then vector search like AI related stuff comes as medium, and then developer tooling, what we are going to talk about today, some of the best practices that we have added as medium category. And it is easy way to identify, because you can dive into rules folder, and then you can see what are the rules that we have added across different concepts. And also we have followed a template on how to write a skill. So if you're following any challenges with the Cosmos DB as you use on daily basis, you can easily contribute. So you can take the template and add your rule, especially for the scenarios that you're facing, and contribute to the skills package. So we would welcome your contributions in terms of adding more skills that would help the community who is using Cosmos DB. Yep.
Cool. So we've got that. We're going to need a Cosmos DB database to actually work alongside with to build what we're going to be building. And so while we go through this like process of getting set up, we're showing you all the important tools. Docker is going to be really useful here, because we're going to be using the Linux-based emulator. So I'm going to show you a little something. It's a little tip that I like to do. You can feed your agent documentation with just a URL. So I'm going to just say to my agent, hello, remember this for our Linux emulator install. So I'm just giving the agent a little context. And this is kind of the old way you would do things if you think about it. In the olden days, you would basically be reading all those docs yourself and saying, all right, now I have to go through this, I have to figure it out. Sometimes you just want to get running. And when you want to just get running, that's the great thing about these new agents, is that they can go ahead, they can read documentation. My MCP skills are taking a little bit of a time, so let's just skip that.
And so we have got a question on the chat. Maybe we can address that once you are loading up the environment. There is a question from Alexander. Is it better to use Data Explorer in Azure Cosmos DB or VS Code for Cosmos DB? Basically, the tooling experience and which one is better, right? In terms of Data Explorer, you can use it for mainly for management purpose, especially if you are like setting up the Cosmos DB account for the first time, and also setting up, the configuration related to it, enabling features, and the Data Explorer is mainly useful if you have, certain access defined at the first place. So if you are a contributor, if you're an admin, certainly that's the best place to use. And if you are a developer, and if you're doing like day-to-day app development with Cosmos DB, I would highly recommend to use VS Code extension, because we have been adding certain features in the recent times, especially to make the developer productivity better. And with AI-assisted coding, we have launched natural language to query with VS Code, so you don't have to worry about the keywords that you typically use to write Cosmos DB NoSQL query. And we also launched the IntelliSense support. So whenever you type a query generation, it automatically picks up the keyword, so you don't have to memorize the keywords or refer to docs, so you can do it in quick time. And also we have launched the chat participant, where you can chat with at Cosmos DB to improve your queries or ask recommendations on how to improve your code and so on. So, and we have packaged the agent kit, which Jay is showing us today, so that you can ask any questions related to Cosmos DB in order to do the data modeling, starting from data modeling to deployment, whether to deploy it in multi-regions and so on. So I would highly recommend to use the Azure Cosmos DB extension, which Jay is highlighting. And especially for the feature that I mentioned, you need to install the preview version for stable. I mean, if you have been using for a long time, I would recommend using the stable version. But especially for AI-assisted scenario, I would recommend to use the preview version and give us the feedback. So you can open up discussions on VS Code Cosmos DB repo, and we are yeah, looking for feedback and also to get more features aligned in the coming months. Yeah, thanks, Jay.
No problem. Okay, so as you can see, while Saji and I were working together, or Saji was answering the question, we went ahead and we fed our documentation to our agent. And now my agent is ready to actually, so it had to restart our extensions because I just switched to the pre-release version of the extension. Now, the one thing I did real quickly is that we don't want to track our rules in Git. They're already tracked. We don't need to do that. So I went ahead and just added a git ignore for it. Now, the next thing we're going to do is say we went ahead and we told the agent that the emulator is available via the documentation. So let's just tell it, start the emulator. Sometimes it's just as simple as that. And then while we're doing that, we can start thinking about what we're going to build today. And one of the things that we're going to build today, if this ever goes away, thank you, great. Let's turn this off right now. So it's going to go back to starting MCP servers. We'll skip this for now. So what we're going to do is start the emulator. So it's getting the chat ready, and it's going to start the emulator for me. And while it's doing that, I wanted to just talk to you real quickly about like these different options that you have to work with as far as using local Copilot CLI, which if you have that installed, you do that, and you also can use cloud. So these are different methodologies to use our agent if necessary. We're going to just stick with the local VS Code today. So it's still trying to start. So let's just skip and let's go ahead. Hey, everybody, when you do this live, sometimes you deal with your MCP installation. So it's still considering, but let's take a look what we can use. So today we're going to be using Claude Opus 4.8. We're going to be using high reasoning. It's greater reasoning, but it's a little slower. We can make some other selections if we want. There we go. Now there it says it's going to start the emulator. We're not going to go YOLO just quite yet with autopilot. So let's go ahead and just let it start it in a terminal. And so what we'll see here is Docker will start. The Docker engine will get the request to actually start it. So right now, first, Docker is pulling the image for the Linux emulator, and then eventually it'll kick it off. So while that's all happening, let's say allow yes, let's run that. While that's all happening, Saji, I think this is a good moment where we can talk about the difference between agent, ask, and plan. So why don't you start with ask?
Yep. I mean, if we have, I mean, before starting coding, one of the things like we need to plan ahead is like certain things that we are uncertain about, right? So you can start with ask mode to come up with the architecture or get suggestions from Copilot. And then once you have that, probably spec, you can go ahead and ask to implement. That's the agent mode. So it combines both ask as well as the implementation mode. In this case, I would recommend, or Jay might be using the agent mode most probably. What are your thoughts, Jay?
Yeah, and so the next one I'm actually going to do is the plan mode. And one of the things I like about plan mode is plan mode can actually help us. Now, there are tools that we can use, and I think we're later in the series, we'll talk about like OpenSpec to be able to kind of do something like this with a structure and a plan. But today we're going to kind of get simple. So the Copilot agent has something built in called plan, and that'll actually give us, before we start throwing code in, it'll kind of give us a structure, an idea of what we want, and then we can actually save it to a GitHub Copilot instructions file. So I will. Okay, WhatsApp, thanks. So let's go ahead and just come up with a simple thing I want to do. So I want to create a movie review website. The data should be stored in Azure Cosmos DB for NoSQL. Let's see, what other qualities that we want? We want our movies stored that we want people to review. So we're going to need to tell it to come up with some examples. So create a few. Then we want to actually have a place for reviewers. So reviewers, names, info. So we're helping it come up with ideas for design. Now we need to say we should have the ability to withstand high traffic. It's because everybody wanted to leave their thoughts about the Mandalorian and Grogu. So here's a place people can all tell us what they think about it if there's a high traffic moment. Cool. And so these are just some of the basics. We're just giving it a simple idea. All right. So let's just start with this. I mean, it's that simple. We're just giving it a basic idea for a plan. And so it's not going to write any code yet. What the agent is going, or I should say, the planner part of the agent is going to do is just really think of what I'm asking. So it's starting to research the correct patterns that it should actually use. So this is a part, Siji, I really like, because you can see it's immediately going to look at like throughput, data modeling. I only gave it a little bit of information, and the agent kit actually is steering it to use the best practices.
Yeah, that's one of the cool thing about having the agent kit installed in VS Code or any environment that you're using, because it's able to identify the context and come up with suggestions on which skill exactly it needs to pick up. In this case, I think you're going ahead with probably Next.js or
So that's the great thing.
You can choose a
plan mode. Actually, if you don't give it a ton of information and you're pretty this is just an idea, because literally we're idea to working app. That's what we're doing today. We can just pick these. So we want to do our React API routes, TypeScript, a single full stack app. Sure. Where should we run this now? Yeah, we're going to run this locally. So we're going to be using the emulator. That emulator is already running and online. So let's go ahead. Now design patterns now, infra later. We really just want our design patterns taken care of. Auto scale model ready, but we can keep it basic, so it doesn't have to do too much reasoning if we want to, or we can go full blown, put it on Azure. Which do you think we should go for today, Siji?
Let's start with the basic stuff, so we don't have to go with Azure. Just do it locally. I think that would give the audience context. Yeah.
So yeah, now we have some of the actual options. So it's thought about things. It's been thoughtful about what we're asking for it to do. And so ratings, viewer, review profile pages, search. Now this is where the complexity would come in. We're going to kind of move past that. That's something we can add on if we wanted to. We can keep a V1 minimal, just movies and reviews. I think that might be best for our time today. And so we've given it some ideas about what we want it to do. So let's just hit submit. So now, rather than immediately going and slurping up a ton of tokens to go back and forth and trying to get the right idea of what we're going to build, Copilot actually takes a more thoughtful approach. So you can see it's kind of going and it's creating an idea, a plan on how it's actually going to build everything. So it's got some ideas from the agent kit. And so while it's doing that, Siji, let's take a little more of a dive into these rules. So I'm going to click on rules and I am going to look up. We're going to be using Node. So let's go to the SDK section of it. So all these rules are broken out into different sections. Each section has some sort of keyword at the front so that you can sort it properly. And in this case, we want to look at our SDK, and we'll take a look at, there's so many here.
I think we have around 6 languages support on Cosmos DB. So if you're building with any SDK, you should be able to find best practices built in, especially in the context of high performance applications, and also how to configure when you're considering resiliency, having a backup DR setup. So those best practices are embedded, and you don't need to worry about adding configuration, because AgentKit would automatically generate the suggestions. So you just need to click on apply while you're building the application. And in this case, we are going to use the Cosmos DB JavaScript SDK, which have the latest version. And this is one of the critical questions that customers have asked, like what is the stable version that they have to use it in their environment. So we have documented or embedded in the skills, so you don't have to worry about which version to use and so on.
So let's take a look real quick, Saji. So our plan came up with an idea, Cosmic Movies, movie review website. It has all of the actual instructions that we're going to need to build this. So one of the things I like to do now is we've got our plan. We can change our mode. So we can go from our mode of planning, excuse me. We can go from planning to our agent. And so I'm going to tell my agent, okay, write this as GitHub Copilot instructions. And so why do I want to do that? For me, I want this to be something repeatable. It's the reason I asked for a plan. And so now it's going to go in, it'll go in the, and just take the instructions that it came up with, put them together. So how do I think about optimizing token credit burn, even with planning? I feel like there's going to be way less burning if you're planning first, because you're not having like that back and forth conversation as you go along. You can take care of that troubleshooting a little bit more, try to reduce tokens. And also while we're planning, we're providing context. So there's less decisions being made and more about having context for Cosmos DB provided. You have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a critical concept when you're working with, especially in the AI scenarios with coding agents. Especially, you need to be very specific on the requirements, and also if you can refer exactly which skills beforehand you need to invoke, there are chances that it would use less tokens, and in terms of token efficiency that you need to plan. But in terms of Cosmos DB agent kit, right? So we have structured in a way that whenever you ask specific questions, those are getting routed to specific fields that rather than loading the entire rules that we have put together. So that is one of the way to optimize, even if you're building any skills for your specific scenarios. So yeah, that is one of the things that I want to highlight.
Cool. And so I just popped up our GitHub Copilot instructions. So it came up with a full framework decision, made an idea about what our database is, the fact that we're doing it for local developer. It knew that our emulator uses a self-signed certificate, which is important. We know what our well-known emulator account key is. That is a standard account login. We're not going to be doing something like RBAC because we're doing this as a local demo. You can see how it's modeled. Where's the exercise or code for this session? Everything is going to be committed as I do it. So let's go ahead and do that. So real quickly, let's added our first few.
I guess we can take questions while there are like agent is trying to perform something. Yeah, you go ahead. Yeah.
And so once again, here is the repo. I'm just going to drop it into the chat. But as we're going, I'm going to continue to make commits. So you can see already we've got that. So what we want to do now is to have the agent actually start creating things. And I wanted to talk very, very quickly that there's this this section about data modeling. And that's like one of the most difficult decisions to make early on in a applications development. So the fact that you can see here, we have a whole plan, how to properly model the data, what conventions need to be used, what key files are going to be part of it. We can do all that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the agent, okay, build it. And it's really, I know that sounds pretty simple, but that's the whole point. We've moved into a world that we can make an idea, come up with a plan on how that idea can come together, and then eventually ask our coding assistant to go ahead and get started in building it. So right now it's going to start scaffolding it. I believe it's going to use Next.js, and then it's eventually going to set up everything. So you're going to run into these situations where it's going to ask you questions along the way. We can just do allow in this session and we can click as we go along, or we can do what's the new and fun thing to do. So we can bypass approvals and auto approve some tool calls, or we can go what I like to call YOLO mode. I think that's what actually the flag is in Copilot CLI. You can tell me if I'm wrong, Saji.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know, YOLO, you only live once. So let's go ahead, let's enable autopilot. It's just going to go ahead because we're just building an idea. We don't necessarily have to worry about breaking anything in production. We're doing greenfield, so we can allow the agent to just start making its decisions. And we can see as it goes along, Saji, it's built out a lot of what we need. You want to talk through some of these?
Yeah, definitely. I think when you're building a TypeScript application, one of the key things is the package.json, where you maintain the references and also the dependencies. So you can see that it has gone and installed the Azure Cosmos DB SDK, which you could see as reference 4.2.0, and also the reactor, which is going to be act as the front end for this particular application. And also it has generated the necessary files with starting with env file, where we would add the local emulator endpoint, and it has some initial file setup starting with script, where it would create a set of services to interact with emulator. That's how we typically write code to interact with Cosmos DB. So most of the coding part is automatically generated using the plan that Jay had written using the plan mode, and it's creating those files now.
So we got a question.
There is a question.
Yeah. Did you define the languages to use for front, back end, any mid-tier? No. I wanted to kind of sit back and see what the agent was going to make a decision to use. But you can specify if you want to say, I want to use a React front end and you want to do the back end in Python or something like that. That can be part of your plan. You can just say that's what you want to do. So now it's gone ahead and it's filling out the rest of our required code. It's making decisions on different helpers that are necessary in order to access the data layer. Anyway, I want to just say to everybody, if you have any more questions, anything that you want to give a shot and see if you're right, wrong, you're curious.
I guess there is a question on how to
Sure.
fine-tune the Cosmos DB performance while reducing cost. This is a particular topic that we will dive in the 5th episode, I guess, especially in the performance and reducing cost. But certainly you can, use the agent kit to identify, especially with queries that you're using, and also how much RUs it has costed for particular query, and what are the optimizing things that you could do, especially with indexes, whether you need to add a composite index for that particular query, or you need to change the partition key. So these recommendations, you can get it from Agent Kit while you have installed. And also with VS Code extension, when you're using the chat participant, right, which is one of the things that I mentioned. Probably I can show it at the end. Say you can ask questions like how to optimize the query, and also in terms of the mode that you have set up Cosmos DB. So if you are using provision throughput, depending on the RUs that you have configured, whether you need to manage through go to auto scale. So those recommendations, yeah, you can certainly go ahead and ask through Agent Kit, and it will have the best recommendation.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do, everybody, is like Suji said in our 5th episode, what we're going to do is take I'm going to put it honestly, a terrible application, just one that's so poorly designed. And why was it poorly designed? Someone was in a rush. There was a team of developers, and all they knew is that they needed to get an application up and running soon, but they didn't really know what they were doing. And now they're paying the price, high bills, their RU usage is just way too high. They're hitting 429s constantly. We're going to talk about that. But let's keep going with questions while this is building. You can see the Docker emulator. It already says it's up and running. It's installing all of our it already installed our dependencies with our npm start. All right, so it's seeded with some reviewers. So it actually did a lot of really great things to actually get us started. And so now it's running the app. So it's given us a local link to follow. What's really cool is like there's a browser right here built into VS Code. You don't even have to leave it. So it's compiling during the startup. It'll take us a second. It's using the .env to handle all of our information. So our Cosmos endpoint, our key, the name of our database, and the servers is ready. And now it's there to show us. So there's not a lot there. It's come up with some movies. Actually, let me put this in our main browser. I think it'll be a little easier to see. It came up with a couple of movies and some reviews. So a perfect little puzzle box. Watched it twice the same night. Wow, they must have really liked that movie, Saji. And so now it's continuing. It's finding other things that it can make changes to. It's showing how to actually submit a review. So we're kind of looking at make changes in real time, which I think is really cool. But it's also finding errors in real time. And I think that's the important part, is that there's an automated feedback loop with something like running in an autopilot. And so it's going to find issues. And now it's actually like using Playwright and testing via directly the browser. So once we do this, Saji, and once this process finishes, I want to do something I think that a lot of people end up thinking about too late. And that's tests, creating end-to-end tests.
Yep.
So it looks like everything's working. Our reviewer page shows raw movie slugs. So let's see how that's changed. We can see that we can add a review. We've got some reviewers who are already there. Marcus, what did Marcus think of this? He's already left a review. So let's say with Diego. Diego thought it was a 4-star movie. It was good, but I wish there were more dogs. That's the way I feel about most movies. So let's submit the review. It was good, but I wish there were more dogs. All right. So now what we're going to do, it's reseeding review docs. So I guess what it wanted to do was update the data model in the instructions to, so it went ahead and it fixed itself on the way. It recognized that some of the instructions weren't really correct. And so it went ahead into the Copilot instructions, made some changes based on the agent kit providing it with just better decisions on how to model our data. We got some questions. So the skills were added with, go ahead, Saji.
Yeah, so there is a very good question on the chat whether the skills added the Cosmos DB are basically text files that contains instructions are added to the context of the model. If so, how large the content need to be? Yes, you are right in terms of what we are adding as a skill to the agent kit. It's set of markdown files in the form of text, which gets added to the context window. The design is tied to keep the content usage minimal. Basically, it would take a typical scenario. It would take 15 to 25 KB of content rather than loading the full, like 300 KB or plus compiled document. So each individual rule file is the self-contained information with metadata, code samples, and a reference link from where we have taken that information from. Some of the information is already part of our MS Learn doc. Some of the information that we have obtained from customer incidents, support cases, and from the engineering guidance that we have internally. So there is no hard minimum or maximum, but agent selectively loads when it needs whatever the context it's needed at the time when you're asking specific scenarios, right? So yeah, that's the answer that I would like to. I hope that answered your question. Yeah, thanks, Ed.
All right, so our app's up, it's running, and now we just need some documentation. And we want to know, so explain how all this works. especially info on how we modeled our Cosmos data. Okay, so that's a big part of this that I absolutely love about using agents to write code, is that a lot of time you spend so much effort on writing documentation. I know for years when I needed to document things, I had to do everything manually. I had to go through review processes. I'd find out where I didn't know how to have correct prose, whatever, grammar, spelling, whatever. It would be a long process. But thanks to this, really all I'll need to do is I'll go through our README. I'll actually just validate that everything in it is correct. And then I'm able to publish what we're doing. So that's what I'm going to do right now while this is running. Once the README is finished, I'm going to go ahead and commit this to our repo. And you're going to be able to take a look. You'll be able to start it. And so now it's writing the README. It looked through all the files that were part of this. It has a lot of memory of what it's already done in this particular session. And it's able to take all that information, turn it into a README, and make it simple for our users to get started once our application is fully loaded online, or I should say fully uploaded to repo. So once that's done, what we can do is talk about what can come next. And so, Saji, I think we're limitless here. Speaking of limitless, we were completely limitless when it came to giving us our README. So I'm just going to go ahead. I love doing this. There's a great extension that I use all the time to actually read Markdown. It's okay if you do it in VS Code. There is that show Markdown preview option, but I like my browser. It's big. So it came up with our README, just our quick start, how to get running, how it works. So it gives an idea of how from browser to API, which is helpful for us to know. So while we're going through that, I'm going to just go ahead and commit what we've done. So built our app. I'm going to keep it simple. Commit. Let's sync. And so if you're watching and you'd like to try this application out, you want to just see the code, let's go ahead. Once again, I'll just pop the URL into the chat. And let's see, everything should be up. Yep, there it is. So our entire application is online, Cosmic Movies, a small movie review site. We are kind of finished with building a basic application just from an idea. We planned it. We made sure that it was going to work. We provided it with all the context. Now, Saji, I want to just look at the extension that you were talking about before for Azure Cosmos DB.
Yep.
Go ahead. Oh, I was saying I went ahead and installed it, and now all I really need to do is configure a local emulator. And so I want to connect the Azure Cosmos DB NoSQL emulator. It's the standard port 8081. And now our emulator is there. There's our database. Let's go to our movies and let's go to items, and we'll pick an item.
I guess there was a question earlier on Alex asking about he has installed the extension and is figuring out how to connect the DB. So this is the way. So you can, there is a tree view which you can look at the top where you can load the subscription and look at Azure Cosmos DB resources. But in this case, Jay is showing the Azure Cosmos DB emulator, which has connected locally. So basically, yeah, you can view containers, you can view data, what is present in the container, and you can do much more. You can generate a query automatically using the AI assisted way. So these are the features that we recently launched.
So
if you can highlight the A button just at the top. Yeah, so there is a generate query, and then you can ask about query and so on. Yeah, thanks, Steve.
There you go. Now it tells you how many movies there are, and where will it put the actual queries, G?
Yeah, you have to execute. There is a button at the
run button?
No, there is one next to there's an arrow that you see. So you need to select the cloud model. I mean, what are the model? And then there is a.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
So here, am I doing explain
No,
query?
in the text box in the place where you wrote the
Oh, okay.
like
Here.
prompt, right?
Sure.
No, next to the prompt, there is an arrow
Okay.
button that you see. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
see it now.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody. I am being silly. So I can pick a model.
Yeah, and then execute. Yeah,
So
go
yeah,
ahead.
now it wants to access the language models. Cool. All right. Oh, okay. Wow. See, I'm always learning from you, Saji. That's why I wanted to do this with you, because now I can figure out all these features along the way as we learn about. So cool. It gave us a very, very simple query to run. I guess let's do one more. How many reviewers have left? At least 2 reviews. So it's a little bit more complex because now we're looking at 2 different types of tables, or I should
Just
say
allow that.
table.
I mean, you have to allow. There's a pop-up, right? You have to allow in order
Oh yeah,
to
geez.
do the concept.
Yeah. Got it. Can't autopilot this. I understand. So, okay. So went ahead and created a new query. How many reviewers are left to reviews? So I guess we can just click run.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I need to clear this to run this query?
Is it committed or yeah?
Oh yeah, you're right.
I think you have not. Yeah. Can you clear everything and then probably run a new?
Okay, understand.
Yeah.
So we're live. So let's see. There. We can also use up down like we can in. Can you pull down the banner just so everybody can see?
Yep, sure.
Cool. All right. So Saji, I went ahead and I'm clicking run. I've got this and it's not executing my query. Do I need to refresh or anything like that?
No, you have to run the prompt, right? So there is an arrow button that you see,
okay.
and then it generates. Yeah.
See, everybody, we're learning real time how this works. So generated from the schema does not contain reviewer level data. So we actually can find out information about our database that we might not already have done. But I think this gives you a little bit of understanding. And to be honest with you, what we could do is take this and recognize we can't actually query for this. So we can go, can't query for this info. How do we modify our data model? And so that what we can do is just drop in the information that we received from our query creator, and the information it said basically we can't do this. The schema just can't allow it. Great. So that'll run through. It'll find an answer to the information, and then eventually, hopefully, provide some code changes and allow us. And if we need to, we can reseed our database. So it needs to implement it by outing a counter field to the reviewers and updating. So we're able to kind of. That's the great thing about something like a NoSQL Cosmos DB database, is that you can update these and add a new field, and you don't have to migrate anything. It's not like you have to create a brand new schema and then go ahead and make all those changes. So it's actually giving me some options. So it can query reviews or it can denormalize the data. It's made a decision because we're in YOLO mode, and it decided that it wanted to change the data model. And that is going to just take a few minutes to actually create the new code. Then it's going to reseed our database. So it's going to probably clear out what we've got in there already. Then it's going to reseed it.
Yep.
And
while it's working on that, there are a couple of questions we can take. First one is about how did you provide the credentials for the DB, trying to understand the security posture. So in this case, we were just starting a demo application. That's how I would put it. So we were using the local emulator. Basically, local emulator has a connection endpoint, which is added to the environment variable. But certainly if you are trying to deploy this application to production, we recommend to use the managed identity with Azure RBAC. So Cosmos DB support Azure RBAC, which we launched with Entra ID support. So I would recommend to set up the role-based access with your application, and also probably in the next session we can take the same application and show how to implement Entra ID authentication along with managed identity. That would be a cool thing to do.
Yeah, we can actually show using something like AZD how to actually take this from idea to code to then eventually production. So, all right, it went ahead and made our changes to our app. And actually along the way, it actually found that it corrupted some data, some file, and it actually had to go in and fix it itself. So, okay, we've gone ahead, repopulated our information. Here's our browser. Let's go back to the site. Does it still work? I might have to restart it, but let's go back to the database because that's what we were working with. So let's go here. Let me do an npm run dev. So that'll get started again. Cool. So while that's going on, we can go ahead and take a look at our items. So probably want to refresh. And then Saji, I want to go to create queries, right?
Yep.
So let's go here to create query. Now let's try this again. So we're going to go to AI. We're going to generate a query. We're using Claude Opus. And then I want to ask it, how many viewers have viewed at least 2 movies? See, I didn't even forget this time, Saji. So now call the sample container schema. So it'll take, so we'll say allow, because what? No YOLO mode.
So it has generated this time. You can just,
so we can now, because we changed our data model, we updated our data real quick. So nobody's done it. So let's go back to our app real quick. And so we see Ava hasn't left a comment here. So it stunk. And she's going to give it a 1-star rating. All right. Uh-oh. So it failed to do that. And what happened? Well, let's say one of the things we can do is take our actual error. And this is part of the type feedback loop that you'll run through, is that you can go ahead and just share it this, and it will take a look at the actual error and see that, oh, we made some changes, but we didn't think about this. So it's got a stale build cache. That's all that really was. So there's no real change to the code that's necessary. It's going to kill the version, as you can see, of npm run dev that was, or dev run that's running, run dev, whatever it is. It's going to restart it. You can see right there, restart it, the application. Let's try to refresh. It's compiling it, so it will take a second. Okay, let's try this again. So what did Ava think about this? It stunk. And then let's make sure it started up all the way. Okay, so it fixed it, returns 200.
Okay, while you're doing that, there is another question about, do you have any recommendations of how to protect yourself against agent going rogue? Currently, yeah, that is one of the important questions due to security concerns. I think to safely enable agentic coding environment, run agents in a containerized way, so that, or a sandbox environment, so that you can grant permissions on when you require. I think that so we have a documentation on best practices across Azure. You can refer that on how to run agents safely. I think that is one of the way to explore how to run safely on the enterprise environments.
Cool. So now you can see we can actually try this again. So let's go back to AI. We went ahead, we had our agent fix our problem. All right, how many reviewers have reviewed at least 2 movies? All right, now let's give it a run. Okay, so now we need to figure out why that happened, but we're not going to do that this week. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and commit. Need to fix this. We'll hit commit. And maybe next time that'll be part. We've got a session. Let's take a look, Saji. I'm going to go ahead. If you want to go ahead and look at this information or this code, you can go and scroll back. I've left the code up and available for you all many times. So Saji, what do we have coming up next month? I believe it is this, designing better data models with an AI coding agent. So Saji, tell me about what mistakes in data modeling people do right away. Like, give me
I think especially in the terms of Cosmos DB concept context, I think data modeling is critical, right? As I mentioned. So if you don't do right in the first time, you will get into trouble of getting into more RUs. That is the way that we measure Cosmos DB cost. And in terms of the application performance, you will get into 429s, hot partitions, and so on. So there are very critical things to be addressed when you don't choose the right partition key or when you don't do the data modeling in the correct in the first place. So we will be talking about how to do the data modeling, especially in terms of building enterprise applications with multi-tenant scenarios. We have different concepts in Cosmos DB, starting with synthetic keys and then hierarchical partition keys. So how to choose when, we will dive in detail, and also we'll build application using those concepts. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Cool. And so you can keep up to speed on this series. The reactor site is going to keep putting it up. We're going to go ahead. How many rule sets are created to create this application? That's a good question. So I don't know if you would call them rule sets. It's a single set of instructions. Wouldn't you kind of put it that way, Saji?
Yeah, so if I have to answer that question specifically, so you could see the references, right? So I think when Jay was typing the prompt, you can see that it was referring to 4 rules. You can dive into references and then click on rules, what rules it has referred. So in this case, yeah, it has referred to 4 rules in order to write the plan. But when he was trying to use the agent mode and try to implement it as referred more, we need to dive in detail. So yeah, it depends on the scenario and whatever the prompt that you're writing, whether it's need to be very specific on, say, application language, then it would refer to those rule sets. So yeah, that's how I would answer. Thanks.
And we're going to talk all about more rule sets. We're going to talk about so much. We got a whole series ahead for you. Today was just getting started. So, gee, this was fun. I'm glad we got to do this. I'm glad we're going to keep doing it. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you next time. That will be July 16th. You should be getting some updates. And if you want to, please, you should be getting an email about a survey. Please take it. The Reactor would love to hear what you thought about this. Find us both on LinkedIn. Leave us a happy message, comment, whatever, and just keep learning about Cosmos DB. So until next time, we'll see you next month. Bye, everybody.